Good evening, Professor and colleagues. My name is Erin. I'm a student here at Community College of Baltimore County. I'm also a student at Coppin State University, and due to my enrollment process, I do not have a CCBC student card, but I do know my student ID number. My student ID number is 988446. Once again, that is 988446. The title of my presentation is Ice Cream, but this time it's not for ice cream. This is an informational on child maltreatment and or abuse. It can be referred as either or, excuse me. So to begin my presentation, I will give a little snippet of my overview. In this presentation, I will discuss the definition of child abuse, the different types of maltreatment, the effects of child maltreatment, human trafficking of children, and the role of teachers. So for starters, we're going to go into the definition. What is child abuse? Well, child abuse is all types of abuse and neglect of a child, and a child is considered any person under the age of 18 who are known as minors, by the parent, caregiver, or another person who has the custody of this child. Child abuse is the harm to the child's health, survival, development, and or dignity. There are 4 different types of abuse. You have physical, sexual, psychological, and neglect. Physical is the intentional use of physical force against a child that results in or has the potential to result in physical injury. Sexual is any completed or attempted, non-completed, sexual contact with or exploitation, non-contact sexual interaction of a child by a caregiver. Sexual abuse sometimes goes unnoticed, and I say sometimes because anything can be considered sexual abuse if it is discomforting to that person. As so much as catcalling is considered sexual abuse. Looking at someone the wrong way is considered sexual abuse. Your thoughts on a certain person that is in a sexual manner is considered sexual abuse. That's why I say it goes unnoticed, because you cannot always see what someone's thinking. You cannot see where someone's eyes wander all the time, and someone's lifestyle as predators. You never judge a book by its cover, so we don't always know. So that's why I say sexual abuse sometimes does go unnoticed. Now, psychological abuse. Intentional caregiver behavior that conveys to a child that he or she is worthless, flawed, unloved, unwanted, endangered, or valued only in meeting another's needs. Psychological abuse is very sad to me, because this is where the child's dignity comes into play. This is verbal abuse in my eyes. It can be a coach, a parent, a teacher even, unfortunately. And the way you talk to, they might not even notice, but the way they talk to the children is psychological abuse. Telling a child that they're not good enough for this or that, or telling a child that they're stupid, or telling a child that they don't know how to do this, or like I said, they can't do that, is psychological abuse. This child may grow into thinking that they cannot be successful, they cannot complete basic needs because of something that someone told them. And last but not least, we have neglect. Neglect falls under 2 categories, which is failure to provide and failure to supervise. A university in Japan did 3 studies to compare the abused children to the non-abused children. The first study was on autism. The mean autism spectral quotient score of the abused group was significantly higher than that of the non-abused group. The second study was on RMET. The mean accuracy rate on the reading of the mind and the eyes test of the abused group was significantly lower than was the non-abused group accuracy. And the last one was positive emotion. The accuracy rates for positive emotion items, hoping, interested, happy, were significantly lower for the abused children. And in some way, the negative emotions and neutral items were not different across either groups. Now we're going to go into some long-term effects. Some of the physical effects, I'm only going to name a few because I do have a lot across my board, are back pain, abdominal pain, bruises, headaches, face, and chest. Some of the mental effects are depression, anxiety, and fear. And as little girls, speaking on little girls growing into women in general, they can develop agoraphobia, OCD, social phobia, sexual disorders, PTSD, and it can even attempt suicide. Now I'm going to touch bases on human trafficking, which falls under the sexual abuse. Human trafficking or child trafficking is a commercial sex act induced by force, fraud, coercion, or even which the person induced is not even 18 years of age. There are statistics from 2 researches that I read, and one of them is from Maryland. And after I read them, I will let you know which one is from Maryland, but I would like you to think about them as I read them. Human trafficking is the $32 billion a year industry. 50% of trafficked victims are children. 63% of underage sex trafficking victims said they had been advertised or sold online. In 2014, 396 survivors of human trafficking were identified. Now, the one statistic that falls under the state of Maryland is in 2014, 396 survivors of human trafficking were identified. And that is only identified. And that is only 396 survivors. We have to think about all the others who were not identifiable. We have to think about all the others who were not even found. This is a $32 billion a year industry. 396, I'm going to go on a limb here, I don't even believe it's 5% of that industry. Next, I'm going to go into how you can identify a victim of human trafficking, because as teachers, as educators, this is very important for us. We must keep our third eye open. We can look for unexplained absences, runaways from home, bruises, physical trauma, withdrawn behavior, depression, fear, lacks control of their schedule, and malnourished children, the children who look like they are in need of medical care. For these type of people, especially, and it's not just high schools either, it's elementary too, and pimps and traffickers, they prey on victims as young as 9 years old, believe it or not. And as educators, we are required, mandated to report these things. We may call 911. We may call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We may call the National Human Trafficking Resource Center. And if you get that parent who just don't know what to do, they need your help. We are teachers, we are educators, but we do not know everything. But we can guide them. You can guide them to the Shared Hope International, and you can guide them to the United Nations, who have several resources for them. More into the role of an educator. As educators, we should have a sense of sensitivity when it comes to child abuse. As educators, we should use feelings as a barometer and begin classes with discussion of how students feel. If you do not want to have a class discussion, just talk to that one child one-on-one. Not really ask them what's going on at home, but just ask them about their day, how they're doing. Teach the use of formula for solving problems and provide sample problems so that students can try it. Structure learning projects to maximize use of cooperative activities and solution, because sometimes children really do learn through play. Teach conflict resolutions and peer mediation skills. That is key. And I would just like to thank you all for entering my presentation. Once again, my name is Erin Sims, and this is the end of my presentation. Thank you again.